Hi Silem stars, you're welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please join the Silem stars by hitting the subscribe button down below. In today's video guys, I'm going to show you how to make this lovely corporate dress you can see on the screen. So without further ado, let's get right into the drafting, cutting and stitching of this lovely dress.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there.
So to cut my dress, I'm just going ahead to fold my fabric, and then I'm marking the baseline at the top of the fabric. From that baseline, I'm marking the armhole line, which is 8 inches, the bust point, which is 12 inches, under bust 16 inches. I'm also marking the hip line, which is 24 inches, and then the length of the dress is 43 inches. And then I added 1 inch to that 43 inches to make it 44 inches, which is the hemming allowance. Now what I'm going to do is make all those, just define the lines, basically extend those lines so that you guys can see. And then I also went ahead to label it, although it's not very obvious. But then at the baseline, I marked the shoulder divided by 2, and then I added 1 inch to that measurement, added half inch to that measurement, pardon me. Now on the armhole line, I divided the bust circumference by 4, and then I marked that. On the underbust line, I divided the underbust circumference by 4 and marked that. On the hip line, I divided the hip circumference by 4 and marked that. On the hem line, I subtracted 4 inches from the hip measurement, and then I marked that on the hem line. Now I'm going ahead to connect all those points. Now you would notice that I did not add any allowance to this. That's because this fabric is stretchy. This is actually a crepe fabric and it is stretchy, so there's no point adding any allowance. Now I'm just connecting the point on the armhole to the shoulder using my curved ruler, and that gave me my armhole curve. Now I'm going ahead to just cut along the lines that I marked. I made sure to curve out my lines, especially at the underbust area and at the hip, so it's not too boxy. It's nice and curved. Then after cutting my front piece, I'm just folding my fabric again, and then I'm using the front piece as a template to cut my back piece. I made sure to leave 1.5 inches zipper allowance along the fold for my back piece, as you can see. Otherwise, every other thing was the same for my front and back pieces. Now the allowance, I'm just going ahead to mark the underbust line and the hip line. Now for the neckline for the front piece, I'm using 3.5 inches for the width, and then for the depth I'm using 4 inches. So that's what I'm marking on my front piece, and then I'm connecting that with a curve to create that round neckline. And I'm also cutting that out. For the back piece, we know that the width always is the same for front and back, but the depth of my back piece is 2 inches, and I'm just drawing a curve to connect back up to the width. And then I'm also cutting that out to create that curved neckline for my back. And then I'm just slanting my shoulder by cutting half inch downwards. So towards the armhole, I came down by half inch and then just slanted that out. Now from the fold of my back piece, I'm going in by half an inch at the underbust line, and then I'm connecting that to the hip and also all the way up. Now from the hemline, I'm going up by 6 inches, and then from the fold, I'm going in by half an inch, and then I'm connecting that all the way up to the hip line as well, and that will create my slit. I'm just cutting along the fold from the hem all the way to that 6-inch mark to create my slit, and then I'm just cutting along the line that I marked. I'm also cutting the other parts of the allowance that I marked as well, just cutting following the line that I marked. Now as you can see, this gives a nice shape at the back so that it fits better. For the sleeve, I'm just folding my fabric twice so I can cut both sleeves at the same time, just cutting out the excess fabric. And now I'm just marking the top part of my sleeve, so like the baseline, and then from that baseline I came down by 5 inches, and then I also came down by 19 inches, okay, which is the length of my sleeve. I'm just marking and extending both points with a straight line. Now because my sleeve has a black detail at the bottom part of the sleeve, if you look at the picture, you see that the hem of the sleeve has a black detail, I'm just going down again by 3 inches from the hem, okay? And then at the 5-inch mark, I'm dividing her round sleeve by 2, marking that I'm not adding any allowance because this fabric is stretchy. On the bottom part of my sleeve, I'm just marking her elbow measurements, and then I added no allowance as well. Now I marked the same thing on the 3 inches, allowance that I marked at the hem, and then I connected that all the way up. Now from that original hemline, I'm just drawing a slanted line to the new hemline so that when I fold it up, it aligns better with the rest of the sleeve. Now I'm marking that triangle at the top part of my sleeve, which guides me with drawing the curve of my sleeve, and I'm going ahead to also draw the curve of my sleeve, and then I'm going ahead now to cut the rest of my sleeve. Now the reason why I added that allowance at the hem is so that when I turn up the sleeve, the wrong side of the fabric shows. The wrong side of the fabric is black, okay? So I want it to have like a turn up so that the black is visible. Can you see what I'm talking about? So when I turn it up now, you can see the black design. That way I don't have to add a different black fabric. Now this is the fabric we're going to be using to create that design we have on the dress. The length of this is 32 inches and the width is 1.5 inches. Now I just took my 2 back pieces, placed them right sides facing, and then from the edge I'm marking 1/2 inch all the way till I get to my slit. Then when I get to my slit, I'm just taking a straight line all the way down to the hem. Now I'm going to go ahead and sew that from the top all the way to the bottom. Now back to the piece of fabric I told you, what we're going to do is we're going to fold it lengthwise, close one end, and we're going to sew along the length of this all the way from the one end to the other end, and then we'll leave one end open so we can turn it out to the right side. Now this is my sleeve. Once I turn it up, I'm just going to fold it very little, so about 1/4 of an inch inward, and then go ahead and pin it. So just fold it inward a bit so that the edge is nicely finished. Then I'll go ahead and just sew it down, fold my sleeve, and then I'm marking her actual measurements. Remember that I didn't add any allowance, so I'm just going to go in by 1 inch from the edge of the sleeve, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew that down. Now after sewing and turning out the piece of fabric, we're just going to place it like this with a slight turn. Just place it like this, like an L shape, and then I'm going to go ahead and just sew it down on the front piece alone. And after sewing it down, I'm just placing my back piece on top of my front piece, and then I'm going to join the shoulders and then join the sides. On the shoulders, I'm joining it with 1/2 inch seam allowance. On the sides, I'm joining it with 1 inch seam allowance. Now once I was done, this is what we have. Now I just mark the midpoint of, or the middle of my dress, the midpoint of my dress, and then I'm marking my shoulder measurements. So 0 inch on one shoulder and my actual shoulder measurement on the other shoulder, with half of my shoulder placed at the midpoint. So once I have my shoulder measurements, I just added 1/2 inch allowance for joining of my sleeve. Now from the shoulder, I came down by 8 inches, which is my armhole line. So just from the shoulder, I came down by 8 inches, and then I marked that. And then I'm going to connect that all the way up to my shoulder with the allowance. And then I'm going to cut out the armhole. Just trim out the armhole. Same thing for the other side. Then after trimming it, I'm going to go in and cut out another 1/2 inch from just the front piece, only the front piece, okay? This gives a better fitting around the bust area, and it prevents any folding when you attach your sleeve. So just only at the front area, just take out that extra 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch. And then after I'm done with that, I'm just going to go ahead and attach my sleeve to the armhole of my dress. I went ahead to put in nice cover buttons. I have a tutorial on how to make cover buttons with a rivet machine, and if you don't have any machine at all, I teach you how to make nice cover buttons. And this is the finished look, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to leave the cover button tutorial in the pinned comments, so please do check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.